All right, welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking a look at JavaScript.
Oh, cool.
We've got a ton of articles and research here, and basically, we want to figure out what JavaScript is, why it's kind of a big deal, and where it's headed. So whether you're like a coding expert or just starting out, hopefully we can make this a fun, insightful journey into the world of JavaScript.
You know, what's really wild is that JavaScript started in only 10 days, back in the 90s. It was created by Brendan Eich at Netscape, and it was first called Mocha, then LiveScript, and then finally JavaScript, because Java was so popular then.
Yeah, it's crazy how such a short project, it turned into like the foundation of so much of the web.
It really shows how adaptable it is. You know, it was designed for adding interactivity to static web pages, and it definitely did that super well.
Yeah.
But it didn't just stop there.
Yeah, it's like there was so much potential there just waiting to be like, unleashed. So maybe we should start by explaining what JavaScript actually does. Like, how does it bring those static pages to life for people who might not know?
Well, imagine you're on a website, right? And you're filling out a form. While you're typing, JavaScript might be working to check your input in the background, to make sure you entered a real email address or a valid phone number, or say you're scrolling through a website and the pictures load perfectly as you get to them. That's probably JavaScript doing that.
So it's doing a lot of that stuff that we don't even notice. It's not just the flashy things or the pop-ups. It's about improving the entire user experience.
Exactly. And like all of those interactions are driven by JavaScript's event-driven model. It's always listening for events, like when you click or press a key, or even when a page loads. And then when one of those events happens, JavaScript jumps into action and runs code to react to it.
So it's like there's this ongoing conversation between like the user and the website, and it's all happening through JavaScript. And all of this happens on the client side, right? Meaning in our web browsers, not on some faraway server.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what makes JavaScript so powerful. It can run on pretty much anything with a web browser, from phones and tablets, even to those smart fridges some people have. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's what's made it so important.
Yeah, that's a super important point. But it's interesting how JavaScript doesn't just stop at those client-side interactions. It's become really important in server-side development too, thanks to Node.js. So what's that all about?
Well, Node.js basically took the engine that makes web browsers work, and it made it possible to use it outside of that web browser environment. This was huge because now developers could use JavaScript for all kinds of things that used to be done by other languages like Python or Java.
So now are we talking about full stack development?
Yeah.
Building like the front end and the back end all with just one language?
Yeah, that's right.
That's insane.
It's a total game changer. Developers can build all sorts of things now, from web servers to APIs to even machine learning models, all using just JavaScript. It's become one of the most sought-after languages for all kinds of industries.
It makes sense why so many developers are into JavaScript. It's versatile, it's powerful, and there's just tons of support and tools from a huge community.
There are so many libraries and frameworks out there for JavaScript. It's incredible. Like React, Angular, and Vue.js all provide pre-built components to make development faster, especially when you're working on complex stuff. And then there are tools like Webpack and Babel that help with dependencies and cross-browser compatibility.
It's like this giant ecosystem of tools and support that can help build anything you can imagine. But honestly, there's no perfect technology, right? So what are some of the downsides of JavaScript? What do developers need to be careful of?
Well, one of the biggest things is security, especially when you're handling input from users. JavaScript can be vulnerable to attacks, like cross-site scripting.
So while JavaScript offers a lot of flexibility, you really need to be careful and use best practices to make sure you don't create vulnerabilities, right?
Exactly. And then there's browser compatibility too. Sometimes different browsers might understand JavaScript code slightly differently, and that can lead to problems with how your site looks or works. Thankfully, there are tools and techniques to help fix that, but it's definitely something to keep in mind.
It sounds like while JavaScript is great, it has some quirks you need to work around. You need to plan carefully and know the best practices to really use it well.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But usually, those challenges are nothing compared to the benefits. And to really see those benefits, we should take a look at what makes JavaScript so unique.
Okay, let's do it. What are some of the things that make JavaScript tick?
Well, one of the things that makes JavaScript stand out is how it handles tasks. It's called asynchronous programming, and it's a big part of creating smooth, responsive web experiences.
Okay, asynchronous programming. I've heard that term before, but I'm not totally sure what it means. Can you explain it?
Yeah, so think of it this way. Like, say you're ordering food online. In a, like, synchronous world, you place the order and then just wait. Just stare at the screen until the restaurant confirms and prepares and delivers your food. And, like, everything else would be on hold until the food got there.
Yeah. That doesn't sound good. Super inefficient.
Totally. But with asynchronous programming, it's like you order your food and then just go do something else. You can check email, listen to music, or get some work done, all while you wait. The food's being made in the background, and they just let you know when it's ready.
Okay, so it's like multitasking, basically, not letting one thing hold everything else up. And I guess that's how it applies to web development.
Exactly. So say a website needs to get data from a server, right? In a synchronous model, the whole page would freeze up while it waits for the data. But JavaScript's asynchronous, so the page can keep working. And users can do other things while the data is coming in.
Ah, so that's how they make those smooth, seamless experiences. It's like asynchronous programming is working behind the scenes to keep everything running smoothly.
Yep, that's it. And that's really important now when users want everything to be instant and dynamic. It's a big reason why JavaScript is so popular in web development.
Okay, that all makes sense. But we can't talk about JavaScript without talking about like all the frameworks. We talked about this a little before, but I really want to dive into these frameworks, React, Angular, Vue.js. And then for the backend, Node.js and Express.js, what makes each of these so special?
Let's start with React, which Facebook made. What's cool about React is that it focuses on building user interfaces using these reusable components, kind of like Legos for your website or app. Each block has its own thing it does. And you can put them together in all these different ways to make like complex and dynamic layouts.
So if you wanted to make a website where the content updates live without having to refresh the page, like those single page apps that are everywhere now, would React be good for that?
For sure. React is perfect for those dynamic updates.
Yeah.
So it's a popular choice when you want to make a fast and responsive web application. And it's not just for small things either. Tons of apps that you use all the time are built with React, like Facebook and Instagram and even Netflix.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So what about Angular? What's that one known for?
Angular was developed by Google, and it takes kind of a more comprehensive approach. It's often called a full-fledged framework because it has a whole bunch of tools and conventions. For building really complex web applications, it handles like everything from routing and data management to testing and deployment.
So Angular's like the all-in-one solution for, huge web development projects.
Yeah, you could say that. Angular's real strength is how structured it is and all the features that it has. That's why it's so popular for big enterprise applications, the projects that need to be super organized and easy to maintain.
Gotcha, that makes sense. So then what about Vue.js? I've heard that one is really user-friendly and flexible, is that right?
Yeah, Vue.js is a great balance between being simple and powerful. A lot of people like it because it's easy to learn. So it's great for both new and experienced developers. And it's also super versatile. You can make a whole single-page application with it, or you can just add it to a project that already exists to make it a bit more interactive.
So it's kind of like the choose-your-own-adventure framework. You can use it for small things or scale it up for something way bigger.
Yeah, I like that. And it's become really popular in the last few years with companies like Alibaba and GitLab using it for their projects.
Okay, so those were like the front-end frameworks. Now, what about the back-end with Node.js and Express.js? How did JavaScript take over the server side?
It's all thanks to Node.js. Node basically took the JavaScript engine, the part that runs the code, and made it so you could use it outside of just the web browser. This was a total game changer because now you could use JavaScript for things you couldn't before, things that languages like Python or Java used to do.
So it's like taking all the speed and power of JavaScript on the front end and using it on the back end to build the logic of how applications actually work.
Yeah, exactly. Node is super good at things like networking and streaming data, which is why it's often used for real-time applications like chat apps and things like that.
That's wild. So where does Express.js fit into all of this?
Express.js is like a minimalist framework built on top of Node.js. Think of it as a set of tools for making web servers and APIs. It's a super simple way to handle things like routing, requests, and responses without adding a bunch of extra stuff.
So it's like a simple and efficient base for building your Node.js applications on.
Exactly. Express.js is all about keeping things simple and flexible. It doesn't tell you how to structure your project or what libraries to use. It just gives you what you need to get your server going quickly and easily.
Okay, I think I'm getting a better idea of how Node.js and Express.js work together. It's crazy to think that JavaScript, which was made for the front end, is now also huge on the back end.
It just shows how versatile JavaScript is. and how creative the developers who use it are. But it doesn't stop there. JavaScript is always changing, and there are a bunch of cool things happening that will shape its future.
Ooh, okay. I'm intrigued. What's next for JavaScript? What trends are you excited about?
One of the really exciting things is WebAssembly, or WASM for short.
Yeah.
It could totally change how we think about, web development.
I think I've heard of WebAssembly, but I'm not really sure what it is. Is it like another language? Is it going to replace JavaScript?
Not really. It's more like a powerful tool that works with JavaScript. You can think of WebAssembly as this translator for code. So it lets you take code written in other languages like C++ or Rust or Go and run that code in web browsers right alongside JavaScript.
Okay, that's pretty cool. But I mean, why would we want to do that? Doesn't JavaScript already do like pretty much everything we need it to?
JavaScript is great, yeah, but some tasks are just better suited for other languages.
Yeah.
Things that need a lot of computing power or like intense graphics, those are better handled by C++ or Rust. Those languages are known for being super fast and efficient, especially for things like game development, 3D stuff, or even complex simulations.
So it sounds like WebAssembly lets us do things that are way more demanding for web applications, right?
Exactly. Like imagine being able to play a game with really intense graphics or run some crazy simulation all right in your browser, and it'll be just as smooth as if it was running natively. That's the kind of thing WebAssembly can do.
Wow. Okay, I see the potential there. But that doesn't mean JavaScript is going away.
Oh, no, not at all. I see it more as a way to make web development even better.
No.
JavaScript's still going to be the main language for user interfaces and all the application logic, but then you can use WebAssembly when you need to boost the performance for certain parts. It's about picking the right tool for each job.
That makes sense. Like having different specialists on a team. You bring in the experts when you need that extra power, but the main team is still running things day to day.
Exactly. And while WebAssembly is changing the performance side of things, there's also TypeScript, which is changing how we write JavaScript code.
TypeScript, yeah. We mentioned it before, but I definitely want to learn more. What is TypeScript and why is everyone talking about it?
So TypeScript is basically like a souped-up version of JavaScript. It has everything that JavaScript has, but it adds some new features, most importantly, static typing.
Okay, can you remind me what static typing is and why it's so important?
Sure, so in statically typed languages, you have to tell the program what kind of data each variable can hold, like whether it's a number, text, or a true-false value. And this is great because the compiler, the thing that turns your code into something the computer can understand, can check your code for errors based on those types.
So it's like having someone check your code for mistakes before they cause problems.
Exactly. You can catch errors early on, which makes your code more reliable and easier to work with later. This is especially helpful for big projects. It also makes it easier for developers to work together because the types act like instructions, so everyone knows how the code's supposed to work.
Okay, so TypeScript is really good for making sure your code is solid and easy to work with, especially on large projects. Do you think it'll become like the standard way to write JavaScript?
It's definitely looking that way. Lots of companies are using TypeScript for their new projects, and it's being included in popular frameworks like Angular. JavaScript's not going away, of course. But TypeScript is a great alternative for people who want to write more reliable and maintainable code.
This whole deep dive into JavaScript has been so interesting. It's amazing to see how it went from this simple scripting language to this super versatile tool that powers so much of what we see on the web. And with WebAssembly and TypeScript, the future looks pretty exciting for JavaScript.
Yeah, I totally agree. The web is always evolving, and JavaScript is leading the way, pushing the limits of what we can do online.
What's also cool is how accessible JavaScript is. You don't need a degree or tons of experience to start learning. There are so many resources online and a huge community that's happy to help new developers.
I really encourage everyone to check it out, even if you don't want to be a programmer. Understanding how JavaScript works can help you appreciate how much it shapes your online experience.
Yeah, that's a great point. As a final thought, here's a little challenge for everyone listening. The next time you're on a website, take a minute to really see how it works. Look at the animations, how the content changes, how smoothly you move from one thing to the next. It's very likely that JavaScript is making all that happen.
Yeah, try to notice all the ways that JavaScript is shaping how you interact with the web. And who knows, maybe this deep dive will make you curious to try coding yourself.
I love that. Thanks again to our expert for this incredible journey through JavaScript. And to everyone listening, remember that the tech world is full of awesome things to discover. Keep exploring, keep learning, and never stop being curious. Until next time, Happy coding.